Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's council meeting. Call this meeting to order. City of Anamosa City Council Agenda Regular Session, Monday, September 26, 2022, 6 p.m. Anamosa Library and Learning Center. 1.0 roll call.
Crump,
Here.
Tukin,
Here.
Zumba,
Here.
Stout,
Here.
Gombert.
Here.
K. Smith is absent.
Note 5 of 6 council members are present in chambers. 2.0 Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Prior to 3.0, I just want to make an announcement that one of our newer city employees are here with us this evening. Brandon Schrader sitting at the front table. I'd like to welcome Brandon to the Anamosa team. 3.0 Approval of agenda.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion by Alan, second by Rich. Discussion from council. Penny?
Tukin,
Yes.
Zumba,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Gombert,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Motion to approve carried unanimous. 4.0 motion to approve the minutes from the following meetings. 4.1 September 12th, 2022, regular council meeting.
Move to approve.
Second.
Was that Jeff?
Mhm.
Teresa? Motion by Jeff, second by Teresa. Any discussion or questions from council on the minutes as they have been submitted? Penny?
Zumba,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Gombert,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Tukin,
Yes.
Motion to approve carried unanimous. 5.0 proclamations, none. 6.0 introductions. House District 66 candidate Tony Amsler. Not present. 7.0 old business. Resolution 22-57 approving bond purchase agreement for the sale of general obligation corporate purpose bond series 2022 thereunder.
Move to approve. Second.
She's on the phone. We will not make her financial advisor. Yeah.
No luck, Rob?
All I can ask is.
Oh, there, maybe she's unmuted.
Hi there.
Oh,
Can you hear me now?
yes, we can. Welcome.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm Maggie Berger with Spear Financial. We did work with UMB Bank of Kansas City this morning during an order period for the sale of $2,200,000 of general obligation corporate purpose bond series 2022. We are recommending that you would award to the proposer at a price of $2,187,041.50. I remind you, they will take part of that as an underwriter's discount, and that's for them to pay some of their fees. They've got filing fees and other costs associated with their sales team working to sell the bonds. That gives us a true interest cost or a true interest rate of 3.9927%. Those interest rates on that letter range from a 3.75 down to a 4.10%. On page 2 of our letter, we did recognize and did abide to what the city asked for a call feature no later than June 1st of 2027. That was the earliest that the underwriter UMB Bank could give you a call without it penalizing you in an interest rate fashion. So that those bonds will become callable at your option only after June 1st of 2027. And this is a fixed rate, and these are your debt schedule from here on out. Now, you will have the opportunity at that call date to refinance if interest rates are lower, to start to pay the debt off in whole or in part. And usually when you do that, you pay from the bottom up, because that obviously that last interest rate is the highest interest rate. The last maturity is the highest interest rate. It's out there the longest and it's accruing the most interest. We also did give you some comparables today because this was a negotiated sale. The ones I want to point out were the Lamar's sewer revenue bond that was issued last week. Again, it was a revenue debt, but as you can see from the comparables that we're showing, their interest rates were a 4% down to a 5%. And the yields really kind of coincided with where we're seeing the spread and the yields today. We did have Federal Reserve movement last week. So the Federal Reserve did raise interest rates 75 basis points last week. We did not see all 75 basis points in the municipal market. Rarely do we see all of it get absorbed, but we did see an increase in rates, and that led to a pretty tumultuous morning, as you probably all are aware in the markets today. We, as Spear Financial, did sell an issue for the city of Mount Vernon last week. Those interest rates range from a 3 down to a 3.35, with similar yield spread as what we're proposing today. And then today we also had a bond sale for the city of Edgewood. That sold at a 3.96% versus the 3.99% that you guys are looking at. That did have local bank participation. So we're thinking that that local bank was probably driving those interest rates a little bit as well. I would be happy to answer any questions that you would have, but we would recommend that you would accept this proposal from UMB Bank, as we've been working with them over the last few weeks, and we really do believe this was the best rate in the market today.
We do have a motion by Rich, second by Alan. Is there any questions or discussion from the council? Hearing none, I'm going to ask Penny to conduct a roll vote.
We'll begin with Stout,
Yes.
Albert,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Tukin,
Yes.
Zumba,
Yes.
Motion to approve carried unanimously. Maggie, thank you for all the time you have stuck into this for us.
Yes, thank you. And thank you very much for letting me join your meeting electronically. I had a 5 o'clock meeting and I'm headed to a 7 o'clock meeting right now. So I really do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. 7.2, discussion and possible action, backflow preventer installation on sewer line at the fire department.
This is for the installation between the residential property on the city side of the city's property at the fire department to put that in. So there's a clear line of responsibility before and after for that sewer line of segregating that for them.
Well, I think it's needed. Is this something our crews could do, or do we need to have Boomerang do it?
I do not have an answer to that. I know that if Boomerang does it, they have the responsibility of the installation. If
Okay.
there's an issue. But I hadn't looked into that.
Thanks, Rob. Well, I see you're doing it rather reluctantly.
Yeah. Robert Young, Assistant Utilities Superintendent. Yes, we could do it, but like Michonne said, that liability, if say an A-lock rips or the backflow preventer malfunctions somehow when you get it, now we have to dig it up and we are financially responsible for that. So that's the only maybe issue that you'd have. A-locks do leak if you were to do that, or if you pour a concrete collar around it, it could leak too. So it's better to put new installation on a contractor instead of a city with stuff like that. Yes, sir.
Question
Thank you.
on the cost, Boomerang would charge how much to do that?
Well, 6,891,
It's
41.
really not worth saving $6,000 or something like that.
Well,
But we still have a bulk of the cost
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
the item itself and staff time.
Yeah.
To put it in. So,
We-
yeah,
you got to ask the question. I mean, I feel like you got to ask the question and get all the facts.
Yeah,
Now, the other thing is whether or not they have the actual time to actually do it is another thing too for our guys.
yeah.
But
And who would be involved if something went wrong? Just the one house that we're dealing with?
yes,
Yeah.
one house.
We've had some discussions on this. Just could we refresh? Whose line? Are we tapping into private line, or is this private line going into the city's main on fire department property?
Yes, it's a residential property, singly only. They could not originally, when they connected, go through the front of the house to the street to connect. So they went back and crossed into city property where the fire department is and connected at the main street. And it's quite a ways on city property anyway, but it is only one house. The ordinance is written that from where you connect to the tap on is what you're responsible for. So if there's any kind of issue, the resident is responsible then to come on the city property and dig it up and fix it. The other flip of that is we're already tapped into that line. Now we're gonna have a second connection. So this is a good clear break where we can actually notate at the property line he's done. Because if it went to the front of his house, it would technically be at the property line as well, when they tap on.
So then the city would be taking possession of that line on city property.
Yes,
And the only resident or private is from the backflow further into their property.
correct.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Rich, second by Alan. Council discussion. Public comment. Penny?
Gumbert,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Tukin,
Yes.
Zumba,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Motion to approve carried unanimous. 7.3, review and approval, pay application, fire station addition, phase 1, amendment number 2 to Shive Hattery in the amount of $11,128.56. This was a carryover from the previous meeting.
Yes, so I have the Shive Hattery invoice and it's for staff time that they haven't invoiced us for. I did confirm, because that was the question that was asked last meeting. I did confirm we have not paid that yet, and I confirmed with Shive Hattery that they have not received that yet. So this is previous staff hours that they have not submitted.
It's still within the original base amount.
So this isn't going to fall under a portion of, what was it, the 15,000?
No, this is,
This is in
The base.
addition to.
yes. I cannot answer why they didn't submit sooner.
Because there's a date on here from April 29th, prints.
Right, but it also says services provided through August 19th. So is it overlapping the original contract and the amended contract?
The discussion I had with Shai Hattery was these are billable hours that were not included to date. I didn't get into what we've already paid out, and if those included in those. They just said these were never sent to us to be paid for.
Did you feel comfortable with the explanation?
Technically, yes. Our financials need to be looked at a little better, so it would surprise me that we've missed some things. There's items now in City Hall that we're looking at from last fiscal year as well that we're trying to get current. So it's possible they submitted something previously and we didn't have it in the group of financials at that time since the turnover was going on and everything else. So it's possible things got overlooked. I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
But we're cleaning up as quickly as we possibly can.
I'm hearing you, this could be a misstep on the city's part,
Possibly,
possible.
possibly. Yeah, I'm 100% sure at this juncture because I don't have all the financial information and current for that, but
Well, come out and watch sooner or later. If we can keep putting it off, but we might as well just, I think, just get this over with and keep an eye on things.
Well, I guess if we pay, go ahead and pay it, so we're not late. We can always turn around and go back after them if we had to.
Push back at a later date.
Yeah.
yeah, once I have all the financial data kind of current, I can look at what contracts were that you guys did previously to me getting here and kind of shore up where we're at.
Yeah. And what we paid them and what we have
Correct.
up to this point. Okay,
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by Alan, second by Rich. Council discussion. Public comment. Penny?
Stout,
Yes.
Zumba,
Yes.
Tukin,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes,
Gumbert,
Yes. Motion to approve carried unanimous. 7.4, review and approval. Change order number 2 to Boomerang Corporation for the Fire Department sewage ejector for $24,451.
Move to approve.
second.
Motion by Alan, second by Jeff. Council discussion.
Didn't we approve this last time? Or-
We
We
approved the decision. Now this is the invoice for it. So they can
Gotcha.
order it. And I think they said it's about a month out. Yeah, it's about a month out before we receive it.
Any other questions? Public comment? Penny?
Zumba,
Yes.
Tukin,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes,
Gumbert,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Motion to approve carried unanimous. 7.5, review and approval, professional services through 8/19/22 for Sycamore Street resurfacing and ADA ramps in the amount of $6,687.08.
Move to approve.
second.
Motion by Alan, second by Rich. Council discussion. Public comment? Any?
Tukin,
Just a second.
Just a minute.
Nancy Schaefer, 803 North Division Court. I just wanted to make sure that that was meeting ADA guidelines on that ramp up there. The landings have to be 5 foot by 5 foot. And there's a 1 to 12 rise that's required by ADA. So make sure that's checked into. Also the width and stoppage. Thank you.
Shane, would you make a note of that? take a look at it.
Was that an HR green?
Mhm.
Is there a rep from HR Green in the house? Thought there was.
Good evening, Josh Scanlon, HR Green. Yes, that's our project. I am not a sidewalk designer, but I thought it was a 4x4 landing. As long as there's turnarounds throughout the length, either with the driveway or a sidewalk, but I will look into that and get a response back to city staff quickly.
We would appreciate that. Thank you for taking that action item. We have a motion on the floor and second. Unless Alan wants to rescind, I'm going to move forward with the approval of this agenda item. Just we could entrust that HR Green met the city, or excuse me, the state codes. And if it doesn't, then they will rectify that.
Is this isn't the final payment, is it? I'm just trying to bring it
No,
up.
not
Mm.
quite. Not street coding.
Penny?
Tukin,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Gumbert,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Zumba,
Yes.
Motion to approve carried unanimous. 7.6, review and approval, professional services through 8/19/2022 for Third Street sidewalk extension in the amount of $952.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Jeff, second by Alan. Council discussion. Public comment. Penny?
Crump,
Yes.
Gumbert,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Zumba,
Yes.
Tukin,
Yes.
Motion to approve carried unanimous. Review and approve, 7.7, review and approval, professional services through 8/19/2022 for the sidewalk program in the amount of $1,020.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Rich, second by Alan. Further council discussion? Public comment? Penny?
Tukin,
Yes.
Zumba,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Gumbert,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Motion to approve carried unanimous. 7.8, review and approval, pay request number 2 for Old Dubuque Road Extension to Boomerang Corporation in the amount of $214,126.62.
Move to approve.
Second.
Was that second by Jeff? Thank you. Motion by Rich, second by Jeff. Council discussion. Public comment. Penny?
Zumba,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Gumbert,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Tukin,
Yes.
Motion to approve carried unanimous. 7.9, review and approval, change order quote for downspouts at fire department.
Move to approve.
I will second.
Motion by Alan, second by Rich. Council discussion.
I looked at this and I think it's a good idea to do this to prevent the runoff and so forth, but I would like to have had Shai Patterly put that in the original plans instead of leaving it to Boomerang to come up with it. Personally, I'd like to see Shai Patterly pay for part of this because they omitted it. So I don't know if there's a way after the fact that we can request that they pay for, if not all of it, a portion of it. And if we have to get the city attorney involved, I would be for that too.
Any other council discussion or questions? Public comment? Penny?
Stout,
Yes.
Gumbert,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Tukin,
Yes.
Zumba,
Yes.
Motion to approve carried unanimous. 7.10, setting a public hearing for 10/10/2022 meeting for the renovation to Anamosa Police Station.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Jeff, second by Teresa. Council discussion? Public comment? Penny?
Gumbert,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Tukin,
Yes.
Zumba,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Motion to approve carried unanimously. 7.11, ordinance 22-954, adopting the code of ordinances of the city of Anamosa, Iowa, third reading.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Rich, second by Alan. Council discussion. Public comment. Penny?
Stout,
Yes.
Zumba,
Yes.
Tukin,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Gumbert,
Yes.
Motion to approve carried unanimously. 7.12, review HR Green project status update.
Good evening again. Josh Scanlon, HR Green. Just to go, I can run through our project update list. Anybody has any questions, feel free to jump in at any time. Sycamore Street rehabilitation is the first one on our list. That is progressing very, very well. Eastern Iowa Excavating is still on schedule to meet their contractual completion date. That one was delayed for some fiber optic work, but they were ahead of schedule enough that they were able to make it up in the wash. Outside of that sidewalk improvement that I'll look into, that one is going well. The second one on the list is the Third Street sidewalk project that we have completed a concept plan for. It's kind of a preliminary first step. We put together a preliminary cost opinion, and now the next step is to look for funding opportunities. There's 2 or 3 different DOT grants and funds that we have targeted, and that will be the next step in terms of a funding source. And then also to look at scheduling public hearings to get residents and citizens up to speed on that project. The sidewalk program, that is complete in terms of proposed change of city ordinance to implement a new sidewalk policy. It's been submitted to city staff. No other big updates on that front. Fourth project is the Jordan Well 6. Gingrich was the Division 1 or bid package 1 contractor. They are nearing completion, and we'll see the final payment application over the next 1 or 2 council cycles. Boomerang is finishing basically all the rest of the project outside of the well drilling. And at this point, we're looking at maybe an early October startup date to get that well online and in operation. Well 7 siting study, that has been gone back and forth with the school district over the summer months with the new school district administrator. We've been playing some phone tag. The goal is to get in front of them one more time to talk about some type of easement or similar process for siting a new replacement well next to a parking lot at their facility. So the next steps on that would be to meet with them and then potentially attend a school board meeting and present that concept to the board. The Booth Street project is underway. They, I think maybe as of Wednesday this week, anticipate having all the water main portion of that project done. And then the next step would be to move on to the storm sewer installation. And that I think has a completion date in the end of November. So they are doing very well in terms of schedule to get that work complete. We did a small project for the water treatment plant, excuse me, to look at some improvements for disinfection. That has been submitted to DNR. Excuse me. They recently approved the preliminary planning report that we submitted last spring. And then they're actively reviewing the construction permit application. Once that's approved, the city can proceed with implementing those improvements. The sewer project is going through right-of-way acquisition process. There is some efforts being made to get those easements for the entire current project and then to get it all the way over to, I believe it's Cedar Street right away. So we have an avenue to get that sewer installed. And then the last one on the list is the city GIS services. Those are on-call services and specific projects as needed. We are making some progress on the cemetery mapping front. The next steps that we're looking at with city staff is to implement improvements for the lead service line inventory, which is a relatively new requirement that EPA and DNR has instituted. The completion date for that inventory is October of 2024. That kind of highlights my summary. Is there any other questions I can answer at this point?
Just on the 3rd Street, how far away from getting just like a general concept? You said that that'll be coming up. I mean, before we get too far into it, as far as getting specifics for the construction, will we see just a general concept of, where sidewalks are going to be? That'll be coming.
Yep, the concept
Really
plan
soon.
is done and it's been submitted already.
When will we see that?
Do you want a presentation to council?
Well, I mean, if we could just informally, see it before we
Sure.
get too far along. I mean, I just kind of be
Yep.
curious what you're.
We'll submit a copy of that to
Well,
council and maybe we can hit that up at a public meeting.
yes.
You want to meet beforehand with that?
Will the concept have estimation of cost?
Yes, it does.
It does.
It does, yes.
It might be beneficial as we are nearing budget session. Sidewalks can be a very hot topic item.
Okay.
So if we're going to roll it, but it would be best to get it going earlier rather
Would,
than later.
would council like a presentation before we go through the public hearing process? Would that be helpful?
I'd just like to see are you thinking even just high level, like one side of the road, both sides of the road?
It jogs, I think it's on the south side of 3rd Street, west of the highway, and then right around the highway, it transitions to the north side, pokes out east, and then ends in the Walmart area. There is, I think, another crossing back on the south side of
Would
3rd.
you be able to email the concept to us so we could at least look at it
Sure, yep.
and then we can go from there?
The crosswalk, does it have a,
Good with as well, Michelle?
Yes, I'm fine. I can, if he gets it to me, I can put it in the next council. This information, the next council can have his information. So if I send it to you guys and you guys comment. We're getting meeting laws.
Right.
So when I get it, I'll just put it in the next council.
Okay.
meeting as like an update.
And I'd be curious about getting across to like the doctor's clinic and the hospital too, because you get to Walmart, but then that's.
I might have misspoke too. I think there was a concept to get all the way to the hospital. I will make a note to email the concept plan and costs to Michonne, and then that will be included in next council meeting. Is that
Sure. That'd be fine.
perfect? Anything else?
Also? I don't think so.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Josh, for
Thank you.
being with us here this evening.
You bet.
Uh, status. Would it be wrong for me to ask if she has? So HR Green was the only item left in old business as far as project status updates. But Lindsay, Schneider is present. I would like to hear any project status updates she would have for us.
I don't know if I didn't get it in time or something. That's yeah, if anybody has any questions, I did have update. Basically, I think we're the Floyd Q, if I understand right, the city wants to push that into January. CDBG application, we're adding screens to it now, for screening replacement of the headworks at the wastewater plant, so that's growing. The 2nd Street project, I now understand you guys are you want to bid that probably late this year for a spring letting. So we're gonna get that. You'll see something probably be filed with the council here in the next couple months. And then Old Beak Road did the pay app here a little bit ago for that project. Obviously, there's a lot of work going on out there. If you haven't seen it, it'd be hard not to see it. Unless you, or there's a lot of dirt moving. It's a huge part of the project for now. Anybody have any questions?
Well, not that any one project is more important than the next, but it is refreshing to see that extension project finally to move dirt over.
Yes, yes, it is. And it's been beautiful weather as well. So let's see it continue.
Any questions for Lindsay? Thanks for being here.
No problem.
8.0 new business. 8.1 resolution 2022-58 approving the hiring of contracted employee for City Hall to assist with financial reporting.
I have a memo and a contract. So the financial status, since we've kind of gone through some people in City Hall, is not as current as I'd like it. Fiscal year 22 is not closed yet. And I do have 4 financial reports that are due December 1st to different entities. One of them has to be published. 2 of them have financial ramifications, like if we don't submit one of them, we don't get road use tax funds. I'm sure that you guys have heard another city have that issue recently as well. There's no extensions for those, so we have to get them in. And I don't feel comfortable with financial things that kind of happened before I got here and taking that responsibility. We have a retired city clerk that used to work in Kelowna, and she did it for many, many years. And she has a contract on her contract is till the end of November to get us through to the reporting items for last fiscal year. If she's willing to stay a little longer, my memo does say to January, just in case I can get her to see. If I can maybe use her a little bit to get caught up on all the financial information while I have her. If she's willing, if she's not, that's fine as well. So I don't have to bring it back to the council, but we are looking for basically a 2 to 4 month commitment to see if we can get some assistance too. So I feel better confidently on the financial reporting. that we have.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second that.
Motion by Rich, second by Alan. Also discussion.
Will she have to do all this in person? Is this anything that she could
It
do
is in
remotely?
person.
Okay.
And unfortunately, you can only kind of have one person in the system at a time, otherwise I'd have everybody hands on deck, but we can't. And even if we had more than one person in there, you run the risk of human error and typo and the data not coming through.
Overlapping
So,
and everything else.
yeah, she's submitted multiple times in the prior report.
Well, and with her coming in, she can focus strictly on this, not having to answer phones or deal with anybody else. She can just focus on it.
Any questions, comments from council? Public comment? Penny?
We'll start with Zumba,
Yes.
Tukin,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Gombert,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Motion to approve carried unanimously. 8.2 and review and approval municipal advisory statement of qualifications from Independent Public Advisors LLC.
Tiana is actually here. She can present a little bit to the council. Currently for our bond, and we've recently used Spear Financial. Tiana has been working in Iowa for a very, very long time. I've actually worked with her in other cities for financial advising. This is over and above like what we're looking at now for the person who hired to get us caught up. She can help with direction, with financial status. She can do a utility rate study for us. She kind of gives the qualifications here, but if you have any questions for her. We do not have to do anything with her today. It's just kind of have you touch base and see if that's an avenue you want to look at going.
Good evening. Hi. Yeah, I think you have the qualifications. I really wanted to just be here to answer any questions that you might have. If it's not something that you're familiar with, I know a lot of people are very familiar with the bond side of things and, issuing the bonds, which is important, and I do that. But sort of the before and after of helping you plan in either your TIF fund or your utility funds. As she mentioned, I do rate studies. I also help with just long-term development when it comes to economic development, looking at what your TIF resources are. And that's sort of a part of one of the reports that Michonne mentioned as well, the report that goes to the state. I think that's a little bit more easily done once there has been a TIF plan sort of modeled up. And there are there's a sample cash flow at the back. It's very detailed. I would not necessarily bore you with that every time. That's usually something I do at the staff level, and you would get a more summarized version, but I just want you to understand that it's actually a pretty intricate process in the beginning of really gathering data. One of the ways that I forecast rates is looking at your volume, looking at your user numbers. I'm not just sort of looking at last year's budget and growing it by some number. We're making assumptions about how your usage will grow, how your city will grow in terms of the number of accounts and population. And so there's just, it's a pretty detailed process, and we go through it with all of the different funds that we would want to take a look at. And as Michonne mentioned, I've been working in Iowa since, it's been about 20 years or so. I've been working at Independent Public Advisors, which is my company, for the past 10 or so. But the page 6 shows the list of the clients that I do work with currently in Iowa. I do work outside of Iowa as well, but I thought you'd be most interested in that. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have. Michelle, is there anything you really wanted me to
I
touch on?
know that we have coming up in the next couple of years, some updates that need to be done at the plants. And once we do updates to the plants, whether we're borrowing or not, we will have to have rate studies involved with those. So even if we don't decide to do something with it now, we want to roll over, see what Spear has to offer or anything, which is fine. She would have availability to get in early enough to get a real good feel of what's going on before we have to get those. Because we have to pay for a utility rate study anyway with the consultant. So it's something to consider as part of the package deal.
When would that have to be done?
When are we looking at updating? Year and a half, 2 years, maybe, possibly. That's what I'm saying. So we have time, but if I wanted you guys to meet her, if we have any questions or anything, we work, we can work together, come up with something to see.
Yeah.
One of the things I think I did want to describe is, I think Michonne talked about wanting to have a CIP, and that sort of really being missing. And usually the way we go about that is I start modeling things and we say, okay, give me the wish list for everything that you want. And then we see that it's probably not realistic in terms of where rates would have to go, but it gives you a starting point, because now you know, okay, if this is going to cause X% rate increase and we can't tolerate that, what do we want the rate increase to be? And then from there, I can say, okay, with that rate increase, these are your resources. Now, given how much you have to spend, how do you want to prioritize your CIP? So it's very much an ongoing back and forth. This isn't a one-time analysis. This is something that I do on an ongoing basis for all of my clients, and which is the reason that the fee is structured this way, because I really want to encourage you to have as much of my time as you need to have. Sometimes people refer to me sort of as an extension of their staff. I'm doing things that you might not have the time to do or the expertise to do, but it's not, here it is, and I'll see you in a year. I mean, you can call me as often as you need to. And a lot of times it's, what if we do this project, then you'll run the numbers and then you'll take a look at them and decide you don't like that and want me to try something else. Sometimes we're looking at 3 or 4 options at once. And this is something that's all done in Excel that I model on my own. So we're not confined to any sort of software. We can do whatever we need to do, and you'll get the opportunity to see how those decisions impact your long-term financial plan. And so that's really the point of it. So I did want to point out that it's very dynamic and it's constant, a lot more during budget time and getting ready for budget, but it's something that, anytime there's something that you want to consider, I'm here to help you to do that. And it's not, a one-time only thing.
Tiana, for the record, could you state your last name?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's Pooler.
Thank you.
I apologize.
So her firm and Spear Financial would be kind of comparable companies. I mean, not
Sort of. Spears more, I don't think. They can accomplish the same thing. As much time and attention to us in detail, she'll get data from us and put it all out there and give us the positives and the negatives and everything. The Spear will send them the data and then kind of like what she said, put it in a software program to see what spits out. Price difference, I do not know what the difference is, but I did want you to be aware that we have other options. For that I'm not aware of us, how long we've been with Spear, or if we use them only for the bond, or what's going on. I don't know if we even have a long-term financial advisor type scenario otherwise, so I just want to kind of introduce this concept.
I like the concept, and you're familiar with her because you worked with her before,
Yes, in West Liberty.
which is also a positive.
Yeah, she's had many years ago, she's had many a phone call from me. And she'll take it, whatever. If I call her 6 times a day while we're trying to gather data for you guys to make a financial
Now,
decision.
Spear, that we're dealing with there in Chicago. And this person is local.
Actually,
Somewhat.
I'm so I'm
Which-
kind
Somewhat
of
local. In other
local.
words,
I
what-
actually lived in Iowa for a long
What
time.
I'm seeing is someone physical standing in our
Well,
room
I am
talking
very
to us,
local right now. I am
which is-
immediate.
which is really nice. Very much appreciated.
No, well, thank you. I do commute from Kansas City. I used to do the reverse and live in Iowa and work in Kansas City and in Iowa and go back and forth. But I sort of do both. I do have a physical, a mailing address here in Iowa, one in Kansas City, but that didn't stop me from being here today. And, I do sort of pride myself. When I started the company, I used to work for a much larger one. And sort of the more senior I got, there was more pressure to work with bigger and bigger communities. And I do, but I also still enjoy working with smaller communities. I always say those are the communities I learned this business working with. And now that I'm good at it, they shouldn't have to give me up, right? So
Yeah.
I want to continue those relationships because they're important. And it's often I find it's smaller communities that need more help because there's less resources and they're less familiar with the things that we're trying to do. So I really take pride in working with all of my communities, no matter what size they are, and no matter how far away they are.
So you fill in a lot of the blank spots that we would have.
Yes,
way.
I would try to
Things
do
like
that.
that do not have time to focus.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Or even some of the things she does, we potentially, and granted, it's a couple years away or a year and a half away, but we have to hire other consultants for it. So we have
Okay.
one-stop shop.
That's true. So
Walmart.
the bonding that you do, I do that in my career. I've done like $7 billion worth of bonds. So I do the transaction work, but I think most of the time, especially when you're not going to be selling bonds all the time, people seem to think if they're not selling bonds, they don't need a financial advisor. And that's just not true. It's the in between and it's the planning that you're going to live with forever. That's just as important. And so, we can do that and there's a role for that, but you need planning in the absence of debt. Especially I think in TIF, I see a lot of communities that are getting approached by economic developers and they have no idea if they can say yes, if they should say yes. They don't really know what the financial ramifications are. And sometimes those things go so quickly that you're sort of catching up and the public has an opinion about it and you're kind of cornered. So usually in the absence of any particular utility, I actually like to start with TIF because it gives you a great opportunity to know what you can do, what you should do, so that you are informed about what your financial capabilities are before a developer comes to you asking for whatever it is that they might ask for.
Maybe you mentioned this, but I'll just ask again, but did you do stuff with cities where like, say we sit down, these are projects we want to do in 1, 2, 5, maybe 10 years, and you can kind of look at how we're going to pay for it. Okay.
And that's a lot of the capital of the
Capital
CIP formation,
improvements,
where we'll start with the wish list. You're going to get all of the stuff and you're probably not going to be able to afford it and you won't like it. But how do you know? Until you have it to look at. And that's when we start massaging it and saying, okay, this isn't realistic, but maybe we can do it in these years. I make recommendations for things like capital improvement funding, making regular transfers to a renewal replacement fund, having those wish lists, talking to your departments and figuring out what you want to do so that you can start to plan for it so that the rate increases can be more gradual, or so that you can focus and understand that maybe you have to have some in water and in sewer and you want them to be more moderate because it's not the only fund. Like it just really helping you. And it's, of course, we can do projections for 20 years. They're not going to be very accurate that far out, and that's one of the things I always, I try to send you, if I come and make a rate recommendation, I'm going to show you the next year, but I'll probably show you 3 or 4 years beyond that, because I never want you to think that it's this is the only one and then we're done. I want you to know, have context, but I usually don't recommend that you actually adopt them more than just the year at a time, because we want to look at it again. We're gonna get new data with what your usage is, what your accounts were, was it a really wet year, what's going on. We're going to be looking at that continually, making annual recommendations and just, keeping that, 5 or 10-year CIP sort of going, always having a long-term view, of course, with the near term being much more accurate than the long term, but still having that in mind so you can plan for it.
One of the things that I am striving towards with organizing and cleaning up in City Hall is to have us flip to a more proactive approach than a reactive approach. Because every time we're in a reactive situation, it costs us way more money than it should be. And this is a good example of looking into trying to be proactive. So we really have a good handle on our financial status, long-term over and above our regular spending.
Well, I like the idea of being able to sit there and actually forecast instead of, like you said, being a reactive. We're actually planning.
What makes our decision making a little more accurate too.
I do like that.
Any other questions? Anything else I should mention, Michelle, you think? Okay. Well, thank you for.
Thank you,
allowing me to
Thank you
visit.
for coming.
The agenda item 8.2 does state review and approval, but as Michelle had mentioned, it was an informational. So unless the council is looking to move on this, it could just remain as an open agenda item. But you certainly can act upon it tonight based on the way it's stated.
There isn't specific pricing here. This is more just of what services she has, correct? This isn't there isn't specific like per hour rates in here.
Correct. You're right. Well, like the base and then.
Maybe I missed it.
I think it says there's a fee schedule. So generally speaking, I charge a flat fee for a year on a quarterly basis. The fee that I proposed is $10,000 for a year. So that, works out to being about $2,500 a quarter. And then that's it. If you have continuing disclosure obligations for your bonds, there's a report that needs to be done. I haven't looked to know this for sure, but you probably do have a report that's due every year. I would help you with that. I would be here at meetings. Like, you're not being paid for my time, because I don't want you to be worried about how much time it takes to do these things. I want to be here as often as you need to be here and on the phone with Michonne, maybe more often than she wants me to be, because in the beginning, it's very intense because I'm collecting a ton of data. We've got to get started, and that's very labor intensive. And then if we're actually going to sell bonds, that's a whole different scope of services. And there's a fee associated with that that's recoverable in the bond costs. The other thing I will point out as well, I think the SRF program does allow some portion of your fee for an advisor on an SRF loan to be recovered with SRF fees. They didn't used to require an advisor, and I think in the last handful of years, they finally started doing that. And as a result, they will allocate some amount of that money to allow you to reimburse yourself for hiring someone like me. You have to have someone like me when you do an SRF loan these days. So
SRF, state revolving fund.
yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, the state revolving fund. You have to have a financial advisor submit a pro forma when you want to go into borrowing. And so and that would be included in this as well. So the only other fee would be if we actually sold bonds. And that's because, there's a whole different, I'm not a lawyer, but there's a legal process that I would have to coordinate with bond counsel. There's disclosure that needs to be done. There's stuff that we don't normally do on a regular basis. So the fee that I have proposed is $10,000. It's very comparable to what I'm charging my other clients. And just it's a quarterly basis, and that's it. There won't be anything else beyond that, no matter how many times I get to come to Anamosa.
Well, we need to get our financials up to date prior to your services, or can they overlap?
Probably honestly, yeah, we should wait to get our financials updated because I can't provide her with what she
So,
all needs right now.
Mhm.
But we could stipulate, if you want to make a motion today, you know, saying December, or January or something. we could
Revisit.
Revisit,
And
or we
place
can
back
approve
on.
pending, she could start that. you know.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
well, I guess I'd like to wait until we get them, if not completed, at least closer to completion. That would be my feeling.
Just a revisit at the end, towards the end of the year.
Right, thank you.
8.3, review and approval, fire department web application and wall map scope of service authorization.
Dan Frank, Fire Chief. I talked with HR Green a couple months ago, trying to get an updated hydrant map for our fire station, so we have current data. And also, on there also is a fire department hydrant application. I think it's similar to what the water department's using, but that let us, at least our command staff have access to the PDF or digital format of the fire hydrant locations, hopefully to implement that into a so we're hoping to upgrade and get some fire department applications on our phone to help make things smoother, go quicker, and help document stuff. So this would help us if we get the digital, be able to digitally access this information, help us out a lot.
Any kind of costs in that?
What was that?
The cost in that?
The hydrant application is $1,000. The fire department wall map is $500, and then there's training for the application not to exceed $500.
Move to approve.
Second,
Motion by Alan, second by Rich. Further discussion?
Can you just elaborate? So when you fire hydrant application, I guess, tell me
So,
more, I guess.
and Robert could probably explain it to you better because he already has a program that he's using now.
When you say application, oh, you mean like.
So it's gonna
like
be
an app on the
web based. So what they'll have is field maps on their phone. So when they are out on a call or before they go, they can click on that, find the hydrants. Our plan is kind of going around, all the hydrants will have either the flow, the pressure and all that stuff. So when they go out to fight a fire, they'll have all those resources to find out which better hydrant they can use or which ones they can't, because some will run 4-inch, some will run 2-inch. So they automatically know when they go in that area, hey, there's a 2-inch, can't use it, but we got a 6-inch over here. So that's kind of what it's gonna be for. So they'll have that on their phone so they can access all that information at once.
Yeah, the city already has it. Basically, just allow the fire department to have the user rights to it, be able to use it.
Will they be dedicated to certain phones, or is it any phone can tap into that information?
It'd be any phone.
Any phone?
So yeah, the city, we'd have our own user
Yeah.
name.
Yeah, they have their username,
Log in.
login, all that stuff just for the fire.
It would just be for the hydrants. It wouldn't be all the other stuff you guys have.
Correct. They wouldn't, I don't think they'd be able to edit anything. That would be just, when we edit, it will update automatically on their map. So if we change out, a hydrant, we change out a line, it will automatically update that, then they would know.
Make it a lot more efficient for you guys.
Exactly. And that's where the goal is, more efficiency with it.
Any other questions from council? Any public comment? So we had the motion from Alan, second by Rich. Penny, would you conduct a roll vote, please?
Crump,
yes.
Gumbert,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Zumba,
Yes.
Tukin,
Yes.
Motion to approve carried unanimously. 8.4, review and approval, application by Ronald Lilly to join Anamosa Volunteer Fire Department.
Move to approve.
Second,
Motion by Alan, second by Rich. Council discussion. Benny?
Tukin,
Yes.
Zumba,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Gumbert,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Motion to approve carried unanimously. 8.5, review and approval of current bills.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Rich, second by Jeff. So discussion, further discussion or questions on the bills as they are submitted.
For our Dallas Lynch, what is a nuisance and what is a prosecution? What, I don't understand. I mean, I understand what that is, but I don't understand why there was so many different charges for these.
What page you on?
So. It is, yeah, first page.
Yes, first page, about 3/4 of the way down. I'm not 100%, but I think the nuisance are the items that we're asking for, like their opinion on things. And the prosecution, we have a couple lawsuits that are pending, and those are separate. They bill those separately because legal matter review, I guess. That's why I can start, but I can find out more.
Well, it's just, some of it says general matters and then there's nuisance, prosecution.
The general managers are me asking them, hey, have we done this before? Like right now, the fire department's gonna have a meeting for a 2080 agreement to take on some more area. And I'm asking them about how we currently have a 2080 agreement with the city. So once they approve that, we have to update our 2080 agreement to include that area as well. So that's like the general managers, just, hey, do we need to do this, or just them doing their side is okay?
Okay.
And I get their opinion on that. But the other ones are actually, if there's an issue, we're trying to get an opinion or a legal matter that they're trying to handle for us.
Chief, is there any further information you can provide on the nuisance or the prosecution?
Chief White, Anamosa Police Department. I don't think so. I think that's a pretty good summation of it. To my understanding, the general matters could be a whole host of things. Nuisance is anything from their filing of our municipal infraction citations with people all the way through potentially setting up those court dates leading up to prosecution. So it could be a whole host of things.
Okay.
Thanks, Chief. Any additional questions? Does the public have any comment on the bills? Penny?
Zumba,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Gumbert,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Tukin,
Yes.
Motion to approve carried unanimously. 9.0 City Administrators Report.
We have been generally busy overall. I'm looking at some of the ordinances and getting some of the information updated with that I'll be bringing to you the next couple months, just some tweaks of different things. I completed, it's a state report called GASB 77, which is some of our TIF funds that were paid out last year that they paid, and we have to send a letter to the county and the school system letting them know the funds that we received from the county. So I completed that today. That's not until Friday, but I completed it today. So I'm here, I guess, focus on other financial issues that we have.
Council have any questions for Michelle? Thanks for that report. 10.0 Mayor and Council Report. 10.1 Mayor's Report. I don't have a report, but I would encourage the residents of Anamosa to support the Pumpkin Fest that is this coming Saturday. It is a citywide fall festival. In speaking with some of the the volunteers that are quarterbacking this, they are very excited for this event this year and are putting together a very enjoyable day, weekend. So please get out and support that. 10.2 council reports. 11.0 public comment for items not on the agenda. So at this time, you can come to the podium, please, and state your name and your address, and then your business with the council.
Good evening. I'm Tony Amsler. I live in Monticello, Iowa. My address is 21552 Stonebridge Road, just outside of Monticello. I apologize for not being here earlier. I was early part of the agenda. Totally my fault. I take full responsibility for that. I just want to take a few moments of your time to simply introduce myself to you as a candidate. I was recently nominated by a nomination convention just last July. So I haven't been in this very too long. This is the new District 66. It includes all of Jones County. Finally, Jones County is one entity now, as before. In the last 10 years, we have not. And most of Jackson County, with the exception of Macokota and 2 other townships. So I will leave you with some information about myself when I finish here. So I just want to give you an idea of me as an individual. Politics will come into play as we get into the election cycle coming up here in October and towards the election, but introducing myself as a person to you. I grew up in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. I attended both Catholic and public schools. My mom raised 5 boys all by herself. Her husband left her when I was about 8, and we were quickly on the welfare system. Now, I share that not for any pity or anything like that, but I want to make sure you understand that I know the sting of poverty and I understand the struggles of poverty throughout my high school and middle school years. We were one of the first to get food stamps, those little pieces of paper that looked like funny money when you went to the store. But moving on, she worked the entire time. She always found ways to work. And I respected that and I learned from that in my work ethics. I'm a veteran, served 4 years in the US Air Force, been married for 45 years, have a wonderful wife and 2 grown children and 2 grandchildren just recently. I also help manage a farm of 220 acres just outside Monticello. We're very concerned about conservation efforts in the land and done everything that we can to help mitigate that with our renter and continue to want to leave that ground for the next generation. I am a retired educator. I spent most of my career in small towns like Anamosa. I taught in Monticello for the last 20 some odd years before I retired from Monticello. Smaller towns like Lost Nation, Maxwell Collins, and even 1 year in Wanamingo, Minnesota. That was 1981 when there was not a single social studies job in the entire state. And for folks who remember back then, all jobs were advertised in the Des Moines Register at that time. Had to go out of state. And that's when interest rates were up to 18%. I know we're a little concerned about inflation rates right now, but that was a real sting and we worked our way through that. I was a social studies teacher, mostly government, and I always emphasize citizenship and critical thinking for my students. After I retired from there, I went to Grantwood AEA in Cedar Rapids, Iowa as a technology consultant. I was also the tech director at Monticello Schools, and I carried that skill on to my next level. I worked with about 8 different school districts, helping teachers prepare for what we just experienced in the pandemic. And they did very well. Many of our teachers reacted to that situation very well. We had a great team and we helped teachers prepare and use technology effectively in the classroom. And we hope we made that impact. I left Grantwood AEA to retire once again, but I was approached by an entrepreneur in Monticello, ran a technology company in Monticello, and approached me to work with their education accounts. So I did apply for the job. I was happy that he hired a 60-year-old to start working in a great startup company that they had. Worked there for about 5 years, worked with those education accounts. And then once again, I retired. So now I'm looking for a new job. I just can't seem to stay retired. I love learning, I love working, and I love contributing as we go through the process of life. So I believe my life experiences will be an asset as your representative in Des Moines to be the voice of all and everyone in Jackson and Jones County. So I want to thank you for your time and thank you for your service as you work through the city and quickly approach the election on November 8th. So thank you very much for your time. I appreciate that.
Any others?
Yeah, my name is Dr. Stephen Bradley. I'm a state representative. And I'm not going to give you a long speech because you guys want to get out of here. I just want to tell you, you run a great meeting and I look forward to seeing you at the Pumpkin Fest. Thank you.
Thanks. Steve. Any other public? 12.0 adjournment. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you for all for being in attendance this evening.